The galaxy was wide and full of life. But few beings commanded as much respect as Queen Lyra. Her crown was not just a symbol of rule, but of centuries of power, cunning, and wisdom. Across the stars, her name inspired awe, fear, and admiration. Yet, despite her influence, she felt a quiet emptiness, a longing for companionship that went beyond politics and appearances. She wanted someone who could understand her. Someone humble, yet intelligent. Someone strong, in ways she could not yet define. Her advisors often warned her against foolish decisions. "Your Majesty," they said, "there are no humans worthy of your attention. They are weak, fragile, and far too small to matter in the galactic stage." But Lyra had long learned to trust her own instincts over the counsel of others. Something about humans intrigued her. Their stories, their struggles, their persistence, it was unlike any alien species she had encountered. And perhaps, she thought, there was value in the unexpected. On a mission to the neutral planet of Verida, she would meet him. The humans on Verida lived quietly, far from the conflicts of the larger galaxy. They built cities that seemed fragile compared to the fortified alien capitals, yet there was a charm in their simplicity. Among the humans, she found him, Evan. At first glance, he was unremarkable. Average height, average build, simple clothes, and a quiet demeanor. Yet when their eyes met, Lyra felt a spark of curiosity she could not ignore. Evan was polite and attentive. He spoke softly, choosing words carefully. Where others spoke to impress, he spoke to understand. He asked questions about her world, about her people, and listened with genuine interest. Lyra found herself smiling at his honesty, at the way he did not seek to impress her or her advisors. He treated her as an equal, not as a queen, and there was something deeply appealing in that. By the end of her visit, Lyra had made her decision. Against her advisors' protests, she invited Evan to the royal palace on her home world. He accepted, saying only that he would be honored. His calmness and humility unsettled her court, who could not understand why the great Queen Lyra would choose a human, especially one so ordinary in appearance. Life at the palace was unlike anything Evan had ever known. He marveled at the vast halls, the intricate designs, the alien technology that was far beyond human comprehension. Yet he never appeared overwhelmed. He asked questions, studied the devices, and offered suggestions that were intelligent and logical. Slowly, the court began to notice that Evan was more than just a simple human. He solved disputes among the palace staff with a quiet wisdom that impressed even Lyra's most skeptical advisors. Lyra observed him closely. There was an ease to the way he moved, a grace in his decisions, and a patience that was rare even among the oldest of her species. One evening, as they walked through the palace gardens, Lyra spoke softly. "You seem to understand things others cannot. Tell me, Evan, what is your secret?" Evan smiled faintly, as if sharing a small private joke. "I only try to see things clearly, Your Majesty. I notice what is important and ignore what is not. That is all." His answer was simple, yet there was something in his eyes that hinted at deeper knowledge. Lyra could feel it, a power hidden beneath the surface. Weeks passed, and Evan adapted to life in the palace effortlessly. He attended council meetings, offering insights that often led to surprising solutions. He learned the languages of other species, the customs, and even some advanced scientific concepts with ease. Aliens who had spent decades in their respective fields were astonished by his capacity to understand and innovate. Yet, he never boasted. He never claimed superiority. He simply acted, and the results spoke for themselves. Lyra felt admiration growing into something more. She enjoyed his company, his quiet confidence, and the way he could challenge her without disrespect. She noticed small acts of kindness he showed to the palace staff, feeding animals in the gardens, helping injured workers, and even playing simple games with the children of visiting diplomats. Despite being in a world of political intrigue and power, Evan remained grounded. Then came the day that would change everything. The royal palace was hosting a banquet to celebrate a new alliance with a neighboring system. Guests from dozens of species filled the grand halls. The air shimmered with lights, the floors gleamed with alien metals, and the scent of exotic foods filled every corner. Lyra moved among her guests, proud and serene. Evan was there, calm and attentive as always, yet something in his expression was unusual. A sudden alarm shattered the festivities. A fleet of hostile ships emerged from a nearby star cluster, firing upon the palace with weapons that could penetrate the strongest defenses. Chaos erupted. Guests screamed, servants scrambled, and advisors shouted orders. Lyra's trained instincts kicked in, but fear prickled at the edges of her mind. The attackers were ruthless and well-prepared. Evan stepped forward calmly. "Stay behind me," he said simply. There was no panic in his voice, no hesitation. He moved faster than any human Lyra had known, weaving through the crowd with ease. Within moments, he had reached the front gates. And what happened next left everyone, aliens and humans alike, stunned. He blocked attacks that should have been impossible to stop. Energy blasts from advanced alien weapons were deflected with movements so precise it seemed as though he could predict their trajectory. He disarmed enemies before they even realized he was there. Palace security, armed and trained for years, could barely keep up. Yet Evan moved with grace, calmness, and authority. His actions were efficient, almost artistic. Lyra watched from the balcony, her heart pounding. He moved with a confidence that no alien, no matter how powerful, could match. His strength was quiet yet undeniable, and his skill with the palace defenses was uncanny. Within minutes, the invading forces were neutralized or forced to retreat. The palace was safe, and the guests were unharmed. When he returned to Lyra, his clothes slightly scuffed but his composure intact, Evan offered a small, wry smile. "I am human, Lyra, that is all." His words were simple, yet his eyes glimmered with a depth that spoke of far more than he revealed. Lyra felt a mixture of awe and curiosity. This man, this human who seemed so ordinary, had just displayed a power that could rival the greatest warriors in the galaxy. And yet, he showed no arrogance, no desire for praise. He had acted to protect, to defend, and to ensure that no one under his care was harmed. For the first time, Lyra realized the truth. Humans were not what the galaxy believed them to be. They were underestimated, often dismissed, yet their potential was extraordinary. They were adaptable, resourceful, and capable of greatness that even the most advanced aliens could not fully comprehend. That night, Lyra could not sleep. She wandered the palace gardens alone, reflecting on what she had witnessed. Evan sat quietly under a tree, tending to the small bioluminescent flowers that grew there. She approached him, her voice soft. "I thought I knew strength, Evan. I thought I understood power. But you are different." He looked up at her, calm and unassuming. "Strength is not always in what one can destroy, Lyra. Sometimes, it is in what one protects, in what one can endure, and in what one chooses to be." Lyra felt her admiration deepen into something more profound than respect. She saw in him a kind of courage and wisdom that her advisors could never teach. A reminder that appearances were never the measure of true power. And as she watched him, tending to the glowing flowers with gentle care, she understood that her choice to marry a human was far wiser than she had ever realized. The galaxy was wide and dangerous, full of threats and challenges. But in that moment, Lyra knew she had found someone who could stand beside her not just as a companion, but as a partner in ways that no alien could ever match. The common human she had chosen was anything but common, and she felt a spark of excitement for the future, for the adventures and challenges that lay ahead, and for the secrets that Evan had yet to reveal. And somewhere deep inside, she knew this was only the beginning. The morning after the attack, the palace was alive with a mixture of relief and awe. Servants whispered about the human who had defended them all with unmatched skill. Diplomats and alien dignitaries who had witnessed the events could hardly believe what they saw. The council gathered in urgency, but Lyra felt no fear. Her mind was focused on one person, Evan. Evan moved among the palace staff quietly, checking that everyone was safe, repairing minor damages caused during the attack, and ensuring no guest felt threatened. Lyra observed him closely. His calm demeanor had not faltered for even a moment. And yet there was an intensity in his eyes that hinted at more than mere survival skills. She had to know the truth. In the privacy of her chambers, Lyra confronted him. "Evan," she said, her voice steady but firm, "you are not just a human. Tell me, what are you really capable of?" Evan smiled faintly, almost as if he had expected this question. "Lyra, I am human," he said simply. "That is all." Lyra narrowed her eyes, not convinced. "All? You just faced an entire invading force and moved with the skill of 10,000 warriors. You disarmed advanced weapons, protected everyone without hesitation, and never once faltered. How can that be? Human?" He looked at her with calm certainty. "Humans are underestimated because most species look only at strength or size. We are not the largest, not the fastest, not the most durable. But we have adaptability, resilience, and intelligence. Our greatest strength is that we can survive, think, and act in ways others cannot predict. What you saw yesterday was only a glimpse of what humans can do when necessary." Lyra listened, fascinated. Every word he spoke carried weight. She could sense that he was not exaggerating. There was truth in his humility and power combined. She realized that humans might be the most dangerous force in the galaxy precisely because no one took them seriously. Later that day, the palace was attacked again. This time, it was not a direct military strike, but a subtle infiltration by spies and saboteurs. The palace alarms failed to detect them at first. Guards panicked, unsure of the threat. But Evan reacted instantly. He moved silently, tracking the intruders with unmatched precision. He disarmed them before they could harm anyone, using knowledge of both human strategy and alien technology. Lyra followed him, astonished at his skill. Every step, every movement, seemed calculated and effortless. When he confronted the last intruder, a skilled alien operative, Evan spoke calmly. "I do not want to hurt you. Leave now, and you will live." The intruder hesitated, surprised by the calm authority in his voice. Then, with a flicker of fear and respect, they fled. Evan turned to Lyra and said, "Sometimes, strength is not about defeating enemies with violence. It is about showing them reason and the consequences of their actions." Lyra felt her respect for him deepen. This was a being who combined intelligence, strategy, and physical skill in ways she had never imagined. He was not just powerful, he was brilliant. She realized that humans could outmatch even the strongest alien species if underestimated. The Palace Council convened urgently to discuss the attacks. Advisors debated strategies, security, and alliances. Many argued for more force, more weapons, more soldiers. Lyra, however, listened to Evan's advice. "Force alone will not protect us," he said. "We need strategy, preparation, and the ability to adapt quickly. We must anticipate what others cannot see." He began training the palace guards in techniques they had never known. Simple human tactics were combined with alien technology, creating defenses that were unpredictable and highly effective. He instructed them not only on combat but on observation, teamwork, and anticipation. In a matter of days, the palace that had seemed vulnerable now felt secure and formidable. Lyra watched him teach, his patience remarkable, his humility intact. Even the most skilled alien warriors admired him. They followed his instructions willingly, inspired by the results of his methods. The humans in the palace, too, found him relatable and encouraging. He had a way of connecting with every being, of bringing out their best, regardless of species. Days passed, and the galaxy began to notice the change. News of the human who defended the queen spread like wildfire. Aliens whispered in disbelief. How could a single human, supposedly weak and ordinary, turn a palace into a fortress and defeat enemies who had threatened entire systems? Lyra felt a mix of pride and amazement. She realized that choosing Evan was more than a personal decision, it was a statement to the galaxy. Humans, underestimated and overlooked, could achieve greatness beyond imagination. And she had married one of the most extraordinary humans alive. One evening, Lyra and Evan stood on a balcony overlooking the capital city. The stars stretched endlessly above them, and the streets below glowed with alien lights. Lyra turned to him. Evan, you could have been anything in this galaxy. Why choose to live quietly among us, to help us, when you could have ruled anywhere? Been unstoppable. Evan's gaze was steady. I could have sought power, but I do not desire domination. Strength without purpose is meaningless. I protect what I care about, and I fight where it matters. That is enough for me. Telmont, anyone, Telmonton. Lyra's heart swelled with admiration. She had known humans were remarkable, but experiencing it firsthand was different. He was brave, intelligent, adaptable, and selfless. He had proven that the greatest strength was not only in power, but in wisdom, courage, and the choice to act for others. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden alert from the palace systems. A new threat was approaching, larger than the previous attackers, more organized and heavily armed. Lyra instinctively tensed, but Evan remained calm. Show me, he said simply. Within minutes, he had analyzed the incoming fleet, calculated their speed, formation, and weapons systems. He quickly organized the palace defenses, positioning guards, shields, and drones in precise formations that maximized efficiency. Aliens who had spent lifetimes studying warfare marveled at his strategy. When the attack began, Evan moved among the defenders, coordinating them with human logic and alien technology. He was everywhere at once, guiding soldiers, anticipating enemy moves, and countering attacks before they could become dangerous. The invaders had expected easy victory, yet they found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. By the end of the battle, the palace stood unscathed. The attackers were defeated, and the Queen's people were safe. The council and the advisors stood in stunned silence. Even the most skeptical officers could not deny what they had witnessed. One human, seemingly ordinary, had turned the tide of battle and ensured the survival of an entire royal court. Lyra approached him after the fight. Her voice was soft, filled with awe. Evan, I see it now. You are more than I imagined. You are extraordinary, and yet you remain humble. How can you be so powerful and yet so human? Evan smiled. Because being human is more than strength or skill. It is the ability to endure, to think, to care, and to act when it matters most. That is what you saw, Lyra. That is why humans survive, why we endure, and why we can achieve what others cannot. Lyra looked at him and felt a deep sense of pride and respect. She understood, finally, that humans were not to be underestimated. They had the potential to change the course of events, to shape the galaxy in ways no one else could. And she had married one of the finest examples of humanity. In the weeks that followed, the palace became a symbol of human ingenuity and resilience. Aliens from across the galaxy came to witness the strategies Evan implemented, the clever adaptations of human tactics to alien technology. They left with newfound respect for humanity, realizing that appearances were deceiving and that strength could take many forms. Lyra and Evan spent their days not only in planning and training, but in learning from each other. She taught him about her culture, her people, and the delicate balance of interstellar politics. He taught her about human strategy, problem-solving, and the power of observation and adaptability. Together, they became a partnership unmatched in history. A queen and a human, united in respect, admiration, and purpose. The galaxy had underestimated humans for centuries. But now, through Evan, they could see the truth. Humans were extraordinary, capable of heroism, strategy, and resilience that no alien could ignore. And Lyra, proud and inspired, knew that the human she had chosen was not just her husband, he was a force that could change the course of history. And so, under the twin moons of her planet, Lyra and Evan stood together, watching the stars stretch endlessly into the void. The galaxy was dangerous, full of unknowns. But with him at her side, she felt ready for anything. The common human she had married was anything but common. He was extraordinary. The future was uncertain, full of challenges and adventures. But together, they would face it all. And the galaxy, for the first time, would see the true power of humanity.